Councillors, 5:33. We might get things underway. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we meet on today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging. For the people in attendance in the gallery, the emergency procedure is out the door, to your right, to the footpath, await instructions. This council meeting has been streamed live, recorded and published in accordance with council's live streaming in council meetings policy. So I'll let people in the gallery be aware that their images and anything that they have to say in open forum will be recorded. The chair or the general manager has the discretion to shut down the live streaming if he deems it relevant to do so. And attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour or comments. Item 3, public forum. And we have one speaker in the public forum, Mr. Gary McCorkindale. Gary, you'll have 5 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a little warning shot at 4 minutes. Thank you. Just close that door, please. Yep. Could you use a microphone, please?
Yep. G'day guys. My name's... G'day guys. My name's Gary McCorkindale. Me and my wife, we live at Spring Creek Road in Young. I just want to talk briefly about Section 94. That the contribution or tax that we need to pay. This has been a property of ours for the last 20 years, and now we would like to start doing something with it. And when we went to put our first DA in, we found we got charged Section 94. Which is a tax at $3.87 per square metre, which on our property alone is or close enough to $120,000, which means by the time before we even build at all, we're up for 120 plus all our DAs, which would come in around another 100, which we're nearly looking at $250,000 even before we build our first shed. And I just think that it's a bit too much for our area, and it needs to be looked at. And I do know that there's in our area, or in the zoning IN1, there is at the moment 4 other businesses that are currently working out of shipping containers, and a lot got to do with this tax that we're paying. My daughter employs around 40 people in the town. They've just bought themselves a commercial property, but this tax is going to stop them from building their shed. And to employ 40 people in the town, it's a bit of a blow. I just think in the last 18 months we've had 2 DAs is all that's come through for IN1, and so it hasn't. This tax hasn't been helping us. It's stopped our growth. Yeah, that's about all I've got to say about it. I'd just like you to have a look at it. I think there's a lot of flaws in here where council are reading it in all different ways. Where some people are getting charged and others people aren't. I just think it should be wiped before and re-looked at. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Gary. Okay. Item 4 is apologies. I have an apology from Councillor Wallace. Any further apologies? Someone like to move those apologies be noted? Move. Oh, I'm sorry. We've got more apologies.
The General Manager and the Director of Corporate Services.
The General Manager and the Director of Corporate Services. Thank you. Would you like to move those apologies now, Councillor Armstrong? Thank you. Seconded, Councillor O'Connor. Could we please be upstanding for the expressions of sympathy, please? We will have a moment of silence for the following people: Beryl Gibson, James Frost, Carmel Carberry, Peter Kelly, Margaret Finn, Alan Vitnall, Jeanette Rentoul, Joyce Walsh, Norma Maggs, Lindsay Campana, Samara Johnson and Martin Moren. Thank you. Council plenary arrives at 5:40. Okay, that brings us to item 6, which is the confirmation of the minutes. Moved Councillor Walker. Seconded Councillor Rolls. Thank you. All those in favour?
Through you, Mr Mayor, just before we move those, there was a slight amendment to do with the voting pattern on the...
That was amended in our minutes?
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Councillors happy with that, the amended minutes we got? Thank you. So we'll take that as the minutes passed. Business arising from the minutes? If there's none, we'll move on to declarations of interest. If there's none, we'll move on to a mayoral minute. I don't believe there is any. Notice of motion. I don't believe there is any. Notice of rescission. So we'll go to item 12, which is the Mayor's report, which relates to a meeting of the Centroc Board that was held in Young on the 23rd of November, with all the participating councils met here, and as you can see, various discussions. And there's a report from the Mayor on it. Thank you. Walker and Manchester. We come to...
Just a small thing in there. Spelling. We recommend not the mayoral report, instead of NAIDOC.
Is he note? Yep. That been corrected? Yep, thank you. So that brings us to the General Manager's report.
Mr Mayor, just before we go on to the General Manager's report, last meeting you spoke about tabling your mayoral report, the activities you've done during the month.
That's correct.
And I did note that we received an email today or yesterday in regards to your attendance at a number of items. The couple that I'm very curious as to whether you're going to do a report is the CBRJO meeting. I don't see any minutes there from the last meeting that you attended, and also whether the delegates that attended the conference of the LGNSW, whether they'll be tabling a delegates report.
Thank you for that, Councillor Tuckerman. I haven't got a written report on the meeting of the Canberra Joint Regional Organisation annual general meeting that was held in Bateman's Bay. If that is to be a request, I can take care of that. Normally I would have had that undertaken by the General Manager. The General Manager isn't present tonight, and the General Manager hasn't done up a report on that matter. As well as for the Local Government New South Wales Conference, I'll go back to Canberra Joint Regional Organisation if you like. It was a good meeting. The feeling with CBRO is that the support they're garnishing now is getting stronger all the time. All members are very happy. There is a matter in our business paper tonight to sign off on. We agreed to sign off on joint organisations at one of our previous meetings, but we jumped the gun a bit. There is a specially worded minute there for us to sign off on tonight. Coming out of that meeting, there was a couple of interesting speakers about the opportunities that are available to local government at the moment with the funds that the state government have, and conversations revolved around prioritising the major matters for the councils that are involved in CBRO. As you would be aware, each particular council has different items that need addressing: roads, bridges, infrastructure, and what CBRO is doing has got a list, and they're trying to prioritise those needs so that they can go to the next level of government for funding and get those ticked off one at a time. And that list is agreed to by all people that are involved with the organisation, so no one's missed out or getting left out, just that some priorities come before others. So that meeting was very good. Local Government New South Wales Conference, it's only the second one I've attended. I was quite happy with this conference. The first conference I went to I didn't get a lot out of. I didn't think personally. This one gave me the opportunity to speak to a lot of people from Local Government New South Wales to clear some matters up that I had concerns about. I spoke to varying people about different matters. I was approached by a lot of people asking how merged councils were going, and in particular ours. There was a willingness of people to take on board some positive news from a merged council, given that there was a couple of councils there that weren't too happy about being merged, and every time they stood up to speak at their microphone they made it very clear to the whole conference. There were some interesting speakers at the conference. There were some politicians who spoke pretty well. The Minister for Local Government spoke of a written set of notes and wouldn't take questions from the floor, which I thought was a bit strange, seeing that everyone else did, but that was Gabrielle Upton. That was probably about the only disappointing part of the conference that I could see from my point of view. But other than that, it was pretty well. So if there's anything else that I can fill you in on activities that the Mayor's done, Councillor Tuckman, I'd only be too happy to do so.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I only ask, I think the Mayor report in regards to the Centroc meeting is a good way to keep councillors informed as to what's happening at those meetings and enable us to ask questions, because it's been tabled at the council meeting, and I think a CBRJO report similar to that would be of great benefit to all councillors. And in regards to the LGNSW conference, you know, I think in regards to accountability and transparency, that a report to council that's tabled is also of great benefit to not only councillors who can ask questions of the delegates, but also for the community to see how their money is being spent. Thank you.
Only too happy to oblige, Councillor Tuckerman. We'll go back to the agenda. I was going to speak on the mayoral diary when we get to that part of the meeting where councillors can give their reports, and I guess mine's nearly done. So we'll go now to the General Manager's report.
Through the Chair, the first item is 17237, the draft Community Strategic Plan. The Integrated Planning and Reporting Framework in New South Wales requires all councils to adopt a suite of strategic plans following engagement with the community. The Community Strategic Plan of 2030 will set the strategic direction of council and will inform the remaining integrated planning and reporting documentation, including the delivery program, the operational plan and the resourcing strategy. The Council endorsed the community engagement strategy in September 2017, and the body of the report talks about the engagement that was carried out. I do note towards the end of the report the community strategic plan in its draft format will be desktop published into a higher quality resource after the public exhibition has been completed, and I'll put it before Council.
So the recommendation is there.
So if you so you're saying there are no submissions received as per item 3 then?
Through the Chair, the proposal is that Council advertise the draft community strategic plan and receive submissions up until 15th of February.
Question, Councillor O'Connor.
On page 17 of the actual community strategic plan, it reads at the moment decrease in youth employment, and it probably should read increase in youth employment or decrease in youth unemployment. It's just a typo.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can I also point out, Mr Mayor, if I may, that on page 9 it talks about the delivery program and the fact that we're on a shorter term, and it says that it will be to 2021, and I think it should be 2020 when our term finishes. It's on page 9. Can I also, if you don't mind, Mr Mayor, just make comment on the work that the staff undertook to consult with the community in regards to it. However, I still am pretty disappointed we only got 7% of the population to provide comment about the strategic plan. But one of the good things to come out of it was that 50% of that number were youth, which is fantastic, and that is certainly something that bodes well for the future if we have our youth engaged. So just wanted to thank the staff for a tremendous job, but it is disappointing that only 7% of the population responded.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. I noted the same thing, and well, 50% were under 18, and I'm very pleased about that. I'm just wondering how many were under 12. But anyway, at 7% of our community over the entire age group are the ones that responded to the plan, so that means 93% can't complain. So the recommendation is there in front of us.
So that's not a bad response considering we normally get none.
Oh, I'm happy to move it, Mr Mayor, except with a comment that I think we need to make sure that we do a fairly extensive advertising over the, especially after the Christmas New Year period. Because there's a holiday period in there, and then this submissions are due on the 15th of February. So, through that January period up to the end of January, a lot of people are away. So I think we need to keep it in the people's minds to make further comments if they want to.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. So it's moved by Councillor Manchester. We get a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Horton. All those in favour?
Mr Mayor, I might just add one comment in follow-up to Councillor Tuckerman's comments that if there is a perception the community are disengaged, it's because when the basics that they request or inquire, such as DA applications, what's happening with various services they pay for every day of the week, and items that they've been engaged with council on since 2012 aren't being dealt with in their mind, it's little wonder that they see a document as thick as the community strategic plan as being meaningless. So I think we've got to worry about our service delivery and as our main focus, and that'll feed into what the community want from council. And I think that's number one, should be service delivery, so that when they go to apply for a DA they know what they've got to do, how they've got to do it, and so on. So that should be number one in service.
Thank you, Councillor, for that comment. We'll go back. We've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, the next item 17238 to request formal council endorsement for the Hilltops Council submission to the draft Future Transport Strategy 2056 and Regional New South Wales Services and Infrastructure Plan. The report provides a background of what those planning documents are, and the report also identifies that it's evident that Hilltops has not been recognised by the state as a regional transport hub, and the Hilltops submission seeks to rectify that omission with a range of key improvements identified in the submission.
Comment, councillors?
I'll move the report.
Moved Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor O'Connor.
Having moved it, I actually am inclined to speak against it, because if you feel as though, I will speak for it, but with the note that if you feel as though Hilltops has been ignored by the state government, I feel as though Harden's been ignored by the council. It notes as Young being the focus of a regional transport hub, and Harden sits on in a key location in relation to Canberra, Wagga. So if staff could recognise Hilltops, not just Young, you mightn't be as offended as people in Harden are.
Point taken. Councillor Flannery. It's been moved and seconded. Any further comment? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, the next item 239, the purpose of this report is to present to Council a recommended finalised list of projects using the funds allocated from the Stronger Community Funds, $1 million towards the sporting infrastructure in Harden. The report itself details the timeline of events culminating in a meeting last week on the 13th of December, which provided a slightly modified list of projects through the Harden community and the involvement of the Mayor, which is recommended for adoption.
Okay, the recommendation is there in front of us. Any questions or queries about the matter? I could speak to it. I facilitated a meeting in Harden to consult with the user groups and Harden community that was interested in the allocation of that money, and the meeting went very well, and we came out with a result that everyone in the room endorsed and was pretty pleased with. So I brought it back to Council, to the General Manager, and the report sits there in front of you now.
I'll move it.
Moved Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor O'Connor. With comment?
Please. Sorry, were all the user groups represented, Mr Mayor?
To the best of my knowledge, they were.
Oh, good.
I'd just like to congratulate the Mayor on the role he took at the meeting. It was well attended. Everyone had a good open discussion about what's needed, and there's still matters that need clearing up. Well, there's still some funds there that have been left for the user groups themselves to actually get in and seek grants, and then I guess a bit of a competitive process to see where that last 100,000 might be allocated. But the Mayor did a great job in chairing the meeting and getting everyone together to support what's in front of us now. So I'd like to thank him.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, item 240, draft Hilltops Council procurement policy. The purpose of the report is to provide the draft Hilltops procurement policy for consideration of Council. There's a range of applicable legislation and guidance which applies to Council procurement, including work health and safety, licensing standards and privacy. The policy has been designed to ensure that all Council purchasing is compliant with the necessary legal and ethical safety provisions. I note that the draft policy was provided to Council's Policy Review Committee prior to being included in the business paper.
Thank you for that. So we have the recommendation in front of us, councillors. Do I have a mover?
I'll move the recommendation, Mr Chair.
Moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Horton. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Armstrong.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the section titled Ethical Behaviour, does that also reference a statement of business ethics?
Through the Chair, I'll have to take that one on notice because I'm not 100% sure we've adopted a statement of business ethics as yet.
I note that during the audit undertaken some number of years ago by the local Department of Local Government, or the then Department of Local Government, that a request for a statement of business ethics, in addition to any purchasing policy, was made of the former Young Shire Council, and the statement was to be separate from the purchasing policy.
Through the chair, I agree with that advice. It was identified as best practice in the purchasing and procurement space.
Thank you. So we've got a mover and a seconder. If there's no more comments or questions, I'll put it. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the chair, the next item, 241, Sister City report. I apologise, my pronunciation's probably not going to be spot on there. I think that's Leng Zhao and Shong Qing, and the other one is Bao Zhao. The purpose of the report is to update Council on our current Sister City relationships and to propose a way forward to get our future Sister City relationships into a more rigid framework, if you like. So it's a fairly comprehensive report there.
Question.
Councillor Walker.
As by the report, we have some sister city relationships there. First question is, have those cities been advised that we're going to cut ties with them? And the second thing, I notice, if there has been a, how was the report put it, if the relationships have waned, as in the report, it's not because of the other parties, it's usually from this end, in every case. So I wonder why things have suddenly changed.
Look, I'll speak to that the best I can, Councillor Walker. The first part is about have they been notified that ties have been severed. That hasn't happened, and that hasn't been said that it's going to happen, so that's a bit irrelevant at the moment. The waning of the relationship between both parties, I think, would be fair to say is on guilt on both sides. I don't think there's been a lot of correspondence from either sides in the last couple of years. It came about, this report, basically because we had a meeting, the General Manager, myself and Councillor Manchester, Board of Businessmen, for an appointment with Council, and unbeknownst to Councillor Manchester at the time, he arrived with a delegation of Chinese. There was 4, I think, at that meeting, so that turned the meeting into a discussion around a further relationship with that city and what it might offer us or offer them, and they were very interested to talk to us. And at the time we were planning to meet with some Chinese embassy officials in regard to assistance with obtaining funds for the Chinese tribute gardens. So we thought it relevant to sit and talk with those people about ideas and any thoughts they might have going forward. The part of the report that interests me is the item 1 in the report. Audrey, who works for us and does great work, meeting with these people now is a pleasure, as opposed to when I was the former Mayor of Young. We met with these delegations and you had an interpreter there and you sat there, and it's very, very hard to do business, I found, through an interpreter. With Audrey in the room, who can speak fluently to our guests and then relay back to Council exactly what's going on in the middle, it makes the whole process so much smoother, and it seems to also, as well as put us at ease, puts our visitors at ease, that we have someone in the room who can do that. And if you look at the websites and the tourist information and all the information going out now that's going out in Chinese as well, there's people taking notice of that now that normally wouldn't take notice because they couldn't understand the English, but because we're doing it in both ways now, it's gaining a lot of attention and a lot of traction. And yeah, I'd be very happy to see this recommendation go forward, because I think Audrey has a lot to offer our organisation. But Councillor Walker, I hope that addresses your question. No, there's been no talk of terminating relations with either of the cities involved. I believe there's been probably lack of correspondence from both sides, and we'll look to talk to those people and see what they hope to gain out of the relationship as we will.
Well, the point would be, if you had that interpreter at those meetings, and there's been a local resident who's been very good in assisting Council for many years, who owns the bee business out the road, but perhaps if you had that same relationship we wouldn't be in the situation you're in.
I'll take that on note, Councillor.
Mr Mayor, just in regards to recommendation, I'm just wondering whether we should be developing the strategy first and touching base with the current sister cities before we actually start speaking to BOOROWA'S city, just to, just to really establish what we're trying to get out of this before we start sort of putting a hand out to everyone, whether we should just put that off until we really work out the strategy going forward.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, if I can. I'd like to support Councillor Tuckerman in that statement. This report, whilst it highlights the potential advantages of the sister city relationships, I would remind Council that the current sister city relationship with Langzhou came about as a result of a direct recommendation from the Chinese embassy of the day. So I would like to think that that recommendation was still valued by this council. And secondly, the report, I think, is a bit premature in recommending the establishment of that sister city relationship with BOOROWA'S, because clearly there is no expectation, no defined expectation, there is no strategy. We don't know what we're going to get out of it. This is... Sorry,
Your Honour, I wasn't sure if your microphone was on, Councillor Armstrong.
It is, yes.
Thank you.
This appears as though we're buying a pig in a poke at this particular stage, so I don't think I can support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I'm just looking at the recommendation again, and I have no trouble agreeing with both the previous councillors who spoke, and I don't know if the council look at the recommendation if we were just to leave dot point 1 and dot point 5 there, and maybe amend that, taking out dot 2 and 3, and I don't mean by not communicating with our two sister cities, I mean about advising them.
Mr Mayor, if I may, my suggestion, if you're going to modify that recommendation, is to delete items 1, 2, 4 and 5 and concentrate on item 3.
Okay.
We'll get a mover and seconder for
the motion. We'll get the motion moved and see how we go. Okay. Someone like to move the motion? Move, Councillor Horton. Seconded. The motion that's moving is the resolution that's in front of us. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Councillor Rolls has seconded. Okay, so we've got a resolution, so a mover and a seconder. We've sort of spoke to it, but we'll do it official now. Then would anyone like to speak for the resolution? Would anyone like to speak against?
Just, if I may, Mr Mayor,
Councillor Armstrong.
Once again, I reiterate my previous comments. Adoption of this recommendation will see Council throwing $20,000 at something that it doesn't know how it's going to benefit the region, how it's going to work, and essentially who it's going to be with, because there'll be at least two sister city relationships with China as a result of the former Young Shire and Harden Shire relationships, in addition to the former Young Municipal and Young Shire Council relationship with Golden, Colorado. Clearly we don't have strategies for any of those, so I'd like to see a strategy for Council developed before we move forward with any more of these. We're throwing $20,000 at something we don't know what we're going to spend it on.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Through the Mayor,
Councillor Ross.
I presumed that $20,000 to employ the Chinese relations officer while working towards the sister city. I know that she has been invaluable in the tourism aspect of Hilltops region, and so I would see that as money well spent in broadening interest and also in opening lines of communication. I don't see it as an enormous amount of money to be spent. I don't see it as being spent completely on the sister city, but more on the focus of establishing and encouraging, if you like, Chinese relationships. And I know the visit that took place during the Cherry Festival was very successful, and in part, or in most part, that was due to having a Chinese speaker on site.
Thank you, Councillor Rolls.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Speaker again?
Sorry.
Can I move amendment to the motion that we adopt item 3 only?
Okay, there's been an amendment that we, Council, adopt item 3 only. You want to speak to the amendment? Councillor Plenary? Seconder? Have we got a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Armstrong?
Yes, look, I would like to speak to the amendment. I agree with Councillors Tuckerman and Armstrong. I think we need to, and I acknowledge comments that the money may be well spent, but well spent on what? Because at the moment we're just firing a gun in the air and hoping something will result. And sister city relationships with overseas cities are great, but we had a fantastic sister council relationship with Sutherland Shire, and I think some work needs to be done, because I think there'd actually be more value in repositioning the Hilltops Shire with Sutherland Shire on the back of the Harden Shire Council relationship. So I think if we get a sister city / sister council strategy in place, work out what our strengths are, what strengths we need to pull from other relationships that exist, and then we can work out how the money should be spent.
Thank you, Councillor Plenary. So the speaker for the amendment, a speaker against the amendment?
Mr. Mayor, could I speak for the amendment? For the motion of the 5. I believe that
The motion?
it's basically a public relations exercise, which is Councillor Rolls has suggested there. And until such time as you build a good rapport with anybody or any community or any organisation, you can't really set a strategy. We get good friends, good mates, find out what they need, what we need, and we go from there. So that's why I moved the motion for the 5 of those resolutions there to be moved and to be approved. PR exercise.
Thank you. I take that as being a speaker against the amendment. So any other speakers for the amendment? Councillor O'Connor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'd agree with Councillor Flannery and Armstrong and Tuckerman. However, I'd like to see that allocation of a $20,000 budget go to actually helping foster a sister city or sister council arrangement, particularly because of the Chinese heritage that's in the entire Hilltops region. If we don't have a sister city strategy, I think having a native speaker would actually assist in developing one that is beneficial to both parties, as opposed to flailing around.
So I'm up to a speaker against the amendment.
I'd like to speak for Councillor Flannery's amendment.
We got any other speakers against it first?
Sorry, were you against it for? Yours was
No.
change, okay.
So we haven't got any others against it. I'll call for a speaker for it. Councillor Stadmiller.
I'll speak for it now. I think Councillor Flannery's right. We should probably look at establishing or re-establishing those ties with Sutherland Shire and looking after our own backyard first, and then extending olive branches and having further discussion about sister cities in China and seeing what may actually eventuate. If we're going to spend $20,000 employing a Chinese relations officer, it'd be great if they did the same over there and in employing an Australian relations officer, and then we would both be getting bang for our buck.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Okay, so I've had 3 speakers for the amendment, 1 against it, and no other speakers against it. Would you like me to
just ask a question, Mr. Mayor, before you put it?
Councillor Tuckerman?
Question probably to the Acting General Manager. Obviously, this Chinese relations officer has been doing work within council, so there's nothing to say that that can't continue to happen until we do develop a sister strategy going forward. Would that be correct?
Well, I was going to ask the same question. Perhaps that one might have to stay to make sure we get a budget to work.
I'll wait for
I'll let
the
the
Acting General
Acting
Manager
General Manager
respond to
reply.
Councillor Tuckerman for it.
Through the chair, if I'd just get some advice that her salary is covered for some period in the budget as adopted.
Currently a casual staff member, and in that capacity the salary is
Thank you. I think that clarifies that by saying no to that $20,000, it doesn't say no to our employee. She will still continue to be employed on a casual basis, and maybe we need to look at increasing those hours at a later date, maybe then.
Sorry, the report doesn't state that that's exactly how the money will be used.
No,
it says that we will allocate that 20 to get a staff member. We've been transparent in these things and not assumed that that will go to that staff member.
It says allocate a budget of $20,000 towards employing a Chinese relations officer on a part-time temporary basis for a 12-month trial period. That's how it reads in the report.
It's not specific about an employee that we currently have.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
thank you. All right, well, we'll go back to the amendment. I've had 3 for the amendment, 1 against. Everyone happy if I put the amendment? Okay.
Mr Mayor, can I just make one comment?
Comment, Councillor Armstrong.
I'd support Councillor O'Connor's sentiments in regards to the great value of having someone that is bilingual on council staff. However, I would suggest that it's inappropriate to have that particular recommendation there anyway. This is a day-to-day management issue that relates to the staffing levels of council, and that's determined by the general manager. So I think it's totally redundant for that issue to be even considered by council at this particular
Thank you,
stage.
Councillor Armstrong. On that note, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour?
Can we just clarify, it's 3 and 5?
No, it's 3. All those in favour? All those against? That amendment's carried. That amendment now becomes a motion. So I can have a mover.
I'll move the motion.
Move Councillor Flannery. Seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favour of the motion? Against? Carried. Thank you, councillors.
Through the Chair, the next item is 242, Combined Rural Fire Service Station Proposal. The purpose of the report is to seek Council's endorsement to proceed with planning for a combined rural fire station in the northwestern corner of the Boorowa Showground, including the Gunnery, Boorowa Support, Boorowa North and Boorowa Houstonia brigades. The provision of one station instead of 4 is thought to be more cost efficient, with the brigades able to retain their individuality while also sharing resources such as meeting facilities and toilets. Note the plans provided in the attachments of the New South Wales RFS Category 4D station is a concept plan showing that's basically the RFS's standard drawing for a Category 4D station. Is not supposed to, I'm advised by the RFS that none have actually been built to this size in New South Wales, and it's not intended that one would be built to that size in Boorowa either, but it does show a few of the key principles, a larger shed to accommodate the 4 trucks.
Thank you for that. So, Council, is the recommendation, is there in front of you?
Just a I'm happy to move the recommendations. It's just a question. These current brigades haven't got a brigade shed?
3 haven't.
No, happy to move the recommendation. Yeah.
So the recommendation has been moved by Councillor Manchester. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rolls, thank you. All those in favour?
Can someone speak for it? Because I'd like to speak against it.
Oh, okay. Before we, any comment or speakers in regard to this recommendation? Anyone like to speak for it? Would the mover like to speak for it?
Yes, Mr Chair. Look, I think it's commendable that the 4 brigades have got together and rather entertain the idea of having 4 separate facilities, which has happened across all our old shire areas, that they've got together, and it's developing one facility for 4 brigades, and it brings the 4 brigades in together. They'll work together, and I think it's only for the betterment of the community and for the RFS representation.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Councillor Flannery, speak against.
Mr Mayor, I acknowledge Councillor Manchester's comments, but the aim of firefighting brigades is to put fires out, and we seem to be getting worse and worse at it despite the billions of dollars, and I mean billions, that are spent annually by the state government and rural fire service on facilities. And one of the reasons, there's 2 principal reasons. One is that by and large there's not the farming employees on farms these days to get to fires quickly, so that farmers by and large don't have the equipment, and little fires turn into big fires and before anyone gets there. And the other reason is because of centralisation of these fire sheds. So rather than having good quality trucks, which by and large we have now in our shire, scattered throughout the shire, we're going to have all the trucks located in a central location. I couldn't think of anything more stupid, to be quite honest. It's just a grandstanding exercise, and whilst it might have been well intentioned, I really recommend that we vote against this. We at least defer it now. We get some financial implications because it's not noted in here. I think everyone should be aware that there is no such thing as a budget for the Rural Fire Service coming out of the Rural Fire Service. It is all paid for by farmers and by insurance holders. So there is not one single cent that exists that these guys have to account for. You want to be mindful of that. And we need sheds put at their locations close to the people who can get to the fire trucks. And to the extent that I pay for fire services 3 times, in that I'm a farmer and I'm obliged to have my own fire trucks if I put vehicles in paddocks, I pay insurance, I pay fire levies, and I pay council rates. And I think people need to be aware of the consequences of this just wanton expenditure of money. I recommend that they come back with the financial implications of it and what it's going to cost, and then we put it back to council again.
Thanks for that, Councillor Flannery. I don't know whether you're indicating a conflict there or not, but anyway.
If anyone pays insurance, we've got a conflict.
Thank you.
Vote on this.
Thank you. So,
Through the Mayor, could I just ask a question? I presume that the council is just being asked in principle to support with to provide the land, is that right? Not asking for any monetary...
The intent of the report at this stage is to allow the RFS to strategically plan for their new sheds across the area and put those into their forward capital works programs. I note Councillor Flannery is concerned that the shed is a central location and not located in the fire grounds. The RFS have identified that at high risk days they would still be looking to position their tankers in identified locations within the brigade areas on high risk days. What was also said verbally in the meeting, which is not provided in the report, was that oftentimes members of the brigades are in Boorowa itself and they need to get back to their shed to get their appliance out, so that they felt that this was an acceptable solution to them.
So, am I taking it that, for the most part, the brigade members are in favour of having this more centralised shed in Boorowa?
Through the Chair, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question, sorry, Mr Mayor, question to the Acting General Manager. Can you just let us know how far apart these brigades would be located ordinarily? So how far is gunnery from Boorowa Support, from Boorowa North and Boorowa Houstonia?
I might have to engage the support of Councillor Tuckerman there, because the answer is I don't know that.
It depends where the assets are actually located and what farms they're located on, and I think that's part of the issue. So it's not a huge area. Councillor Flannery might be able to help in regards to the actual distances, but I have no idea where the assets are located, which is a problem within itself.
Look, I know vaguely where they're located. I couldn't give it. They'd probably be 10 to 20 kilometres apart, but I still think very strongly. In fact, I'd like to move an amendment that be deferred, subject to getting some of the details that we need to know, like how far apart they are currently stationed. And if we give in principle support to this, it is almost certainly to go through. I think we need to look at what the alternatives are, like building fire sheds on some land that might be given in by farmers or whoever, or Crown land, as has been the case throughout other parts of the Shire. I'd like to move an amendment that we get further details on other options, such as building sheds within those brigades, and the location of trucks currently, and the size of the area that's being discussed, and it will be brought back to council once we know, including the financial implications.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. So we have a mover for an amendment. Do we have a seconder for that amendment?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Horton. Okay, so I've had a mover and a seconder for an amendment and a speaker for it. Have we got a speaker against the amendment? If I haven't got a speaker against the amendment, we'll now have a speaker for the amendment. Council happy for me to put the amendment? We clear with the amendment to go up first? Councillor Flannery, that they're getting it to where you're happy with it?
The screen up there is, Mr Mayor, the screen's not syncing.
I'm sorry, your mind is here.
Yes. Financial estimates or costings on sheds in the brigades versus a central location, please. I'll move that amendment.
It's been moved and we had a seconder for it. Councillor Horton seconded before. So if you're happy to put the amendment, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Those again? It's carried. I'll now put the amendment as the motion. All those in favour of the motion? Those again? Carried. So be it. Thank you.
Through the chair, item 243, the action summary report provided to council a summary of actions undertaken on council resolutions and outstanding actions, recommending that council note the status and endorse the removal of completed items.
Okay, councillors, any comment or questions in regard to the action summary report before I put the recommendation? If there's no questions, I'll put the recommendation. Someone like to move it that way? Councillor Horton. Seconded. Councillor O'Connor. Thank you. All those in favour? Again. So be it.
Through the chair, the next item, 244, quarterly budget.
In regards to some items in the action plan,
I did give the opportunity, but away you go, Councillor Tuckman.
update on the transition costs for the merger.
I note that in your column recently you asked a question about the update on transition costs, and it's a pretty pertinent matter. I have spoke with the Deputy Premier in regard to that matter before. What the crying shame about the whole matter is that it should never have got to this stage. The question should have been asked 18 months ago. Instead of asking it at the tail end, we should have...
Mr Mayor, it was asked quite some time ago.
Yeah, probably, well, I'll take that on notice as well. But I have had a verbal assurance by the Deputy Premier that he and the Premier were taking care of this matter. They'd taken the matter over. I was to ignore a response I got back from the Minister for Local Government, and that he was hoping at that particular stage that he would have some good news before Christmas. Given that Santa Claus is very close, I doubt that's going to happen. I spoke to our local member in regard to that matter this morning, and was assured that our local member for Cootamundra was going to chase up the Deputy Premier and see if I can't get something in black and white that substantiates the conversation I had to him face to face and then on the phone a few hours later. So I can only go on what they tell me, but I can tell you that there's been a strong move by councils that didn't amalgamate, resenting the fact that we have the hide to ask for more money, and that lobby is getting stronger all the time. There are councils in Sydney now who are seeking compensation for money that they claim they'd spent getting ready to amalgamate, only for their amalgamations to be hit on the head. So they're now saying, how dare you pay someone you've given money? We want to be reimbursed for what we spent. So it's important that we keep asking the question before it gets washed away. But thanks for the question, Councillor Tuckerman. Any other questions on that report? Okay.
Through the Chair, the next item, 244, the quarterly budget review statement, to present a summary of Council's financial position at the end of the quarter and to report on progress made against the original budget adopted by Council. The revised estimated net operating result is provided in the report, as is additional material variations to the estimated result in the attachments. Unfortunately, I have some very able assistants to answer any questions arising.
Okay, councillors, there's the report and the recommendations there in front of you. If you have any questions or debate in regard to that matter? Councillor Armstrong.
One question. The increase in rates and annual charges, I note 23,699. I go to the note, I note that there is a significant decrease in the water access charge in there. So I was just wondering what has brought about the decreased income in the water access charges.
Through the Chair, got any advice on?
I'll have to take it on notice and have a look through it.
Sorry, Councillor Armstrong, taken on notice. I'll get back, staff will get back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments in regard to that report? If not, can I get a mover for the recommendation?
Mr. Mayor, through the Mayor,
Councillor Rolls.
could I just make a comment to say, as a new councillor, reading the budget papers is not the easiest, and I would like to thank members of council who assisted me in helping me to understand how this is formulated and put together. So I'd just like to make that comment and pass on my thanks.
Thank you. I'm sure staff appreciate that, and staff do a great job. They're not the easiest of things to go through, and sometimes they get overcomplicated, but staff appreciate your thanks. So we're back to the recommendation that's in front of us. Do I have a mover for the recommendation?
I'll move the motion.
Move Councillor Horton. Seconder?
I'll second it.
Councillor Tuckerman. There's no more questions. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, the next item, 245, distribution of remaining Council's sponsorship fund. The purpose of the report to recommend to Council the distribution of the remainder of the sponsorship fund of $17.50 to the Young Community Transport, on the basis that part of their application was attached to another application and missed being considered as part of the program previously being adopted by Council, and on the basis that the service to be provided is considered worthwhile.
Thanks, Councillor.
Question, Mr. Mayor, if I may. Obviously, this application is very elusive because the attachment is not the application.
I can only pass that on to the relevant people who put the paper together.
So I'm I'd really like to know a little bit more about what's being planned and the costs associated with it. Perhaps we could defer this until the next meeting to...
You mean the cost of the $1,750?
The cost of the actual, what they're planning to do with the, about the project? Like, what is the $1,750 being spent on? That's what I want to know.
Well, surely there was an application put the council was missed. It went through the cracks the first time.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, I sit on this committee, and I certainly shared Councillor Tuckerman's sentiments in regard to this. If this application has not been through the committee that council's appointed to review these things, I don't really see how it can be placed before council now. I think that if council wants to do it that way, then council should disband the committee.
Okay, it sounds like someone like to move an amendment to this recommendation. Councillor Tuckerman.
Yes, I'd like to move, I'd actually like to move a new motion to defer the matter until the next council meeting when some more information can be provided to council.
It's unfortunate that the member of staff who's been dealing with this isn't present tonight.
Can I just get clarification on why we're deferring it for more information to be brought to council? When Councillor Armstrong says it didn't go to the committee, we either refer it back to the committee that should have reviewed it to bring to council, or we vote on it now.
My recommendation will be to refer it back to the committee, Councillor.
I'm happy to adopt that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. So the motion is by Councillor Armstrong, that. Would you like to repeat it for the...
The application be referred back to council's sponsorship committee. For review.
Okay, we've got the amendment there. And a mover and a seconder. Would anyone like to speak for that amendment or against it? If not... It's a motion. So that needs to be changed on my screen from an amendment to a motion. We have a motion from Councillor Tuckerman, seconded by Councillor Armstrong, that the matter be referred back to the sponsorship committee, I thought, for consideration. Would anyone like to speak for that motion or against that motion?
Just, Mr Mayor, I'll speak for it. I think that it's a bit premature to put this application before council without the application ever being presented to the sponsorship committee. There are guidelines adopted by council, there's a policy in place, and it's appropriate that council follow its guidelines and its policy in considering these issues.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, and I take the point on board, and it's just a shame that some of the staff that are relevant to this aren't present. So we have a motion. Would anyone like to speak against that motion? That being the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Again. So be it.
Mr Mayor, just regarding the following report here, Hilltops Council submission to the draft future transport strategy. We're probably all well aware that the final 40 or 50 kilometres of the Barton Highway needs duplication. If we're going to be a strong member of the CBRJO, I think we should really push state and federal government to look at upgrading that. I think it's been not a 20-year plus visionary project. I think it was going on when my parents were going to the public service in the late 60s. There'd already been talk for 20 years regarding duplicating that, and it's a piece of vital infrastructure which links country people to our nation's capital. I just think we can be taking a firmer stance on that and pushing harder.
On that point, I spoke, Councillor Stadmiller, I spoke with the Mayor of yesterday in regard to that matter, and she was very positive about some news they'd been hearing about that piece of road. So we'll go back to the General Manager.
Through the Chair, the next item is 246, submission to the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal. The purpose of the report to recommend to Council they endorse a submission to be made to the Tribunal, recommending that Hilltops Council be recategorised from rural to regional rural. This would recognise the fact that there is an increased level of complexity of the business as the new council, with a corresponding drop in the total number of councillors from the former shires of 25 to 11, with quite a significant population in the Hilltops Council. Towards the end of the report, it talks about what councillors are actually making on an hourly rate, given the workload that we are providing them. So I think that the submission, the recommendation is before you.
Mr Mayor, can I make a comment in regards to the recommendation?
Councillor Tuckerman.
Just reading the submission, I just think it's a little bit light on, actually. I think there's not anything stated in there in regards to the Mayor's role and how that has increased significantly and his responsibilities towards the whole local government area. It doesn't talk about the square kilometres that the LGA now covers and the travel times between both the one end of the shire to the other. And I think also it's pretty light on with what the councils actually do in regards to some of the committee and community functions that they attend. So I just think we need to put forward a stronger case.
I agree.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. So there's a recommendation there that says we endorse this submission to the local government and we ask local government to recategorise Hilltops Council from rural to regional. Am I hearing that you like to have this submission redone?
Through the Chair, we might be able to move an additional recommendation that the submission be updated to include a significant increase in the role of the Mayor, a significant increase in the area of council and the travel times of council staff and Mayor required to service the Hilltops area. Any other points that you might like to add?
Well, noting Councillor Tuckerman's comments, I think there needs to be something added about the actual area, the nature of the population and the businesses that are conducted in the area. I think the role of the Mayor is very important, and I see it almost as a full-time job. You certainly, whether he's in an office here in the council building or out on the streets 24/7, he certainly can't do much else to keep continuity of employment elsewhere, and it's lucky that he has his own business. So if we want quality people to stand up as Mayor in the future, we've got to certainly put forward a submission that notes that it is a full-time job, and perhaps we can detail more of that.
So through the Chair, I'm confident that we can update the submission to take on board your concerns, and the recommendation is we're proposing to include point 3.
Mr Mayor, can I ask a question?
Councillor Stadmiller.
Are the current fees set based on population, and that if Hilltops Council was to tick over $20,000 people in the Shire, there would be an increase in remuneration?
My understanding that population was one of the criteria that was used. There was a number of criteria apparently used, but the population, the line in the sand was basically yes, drawn at 20,000 residents of 20,000 over and residents 20,000 and under. The example that I gave was Cooma Monero, who are just over 20,000, whereas Hilltops is just under 20,000. But when the election was held, there was actually more voters that voted in the Hilltops than did in the other shire. So it seemed quite a strange thing.
Mr Mayor, I'd certainly support an increase for the Mayor based on your recent mayoral reports. Like Councillor Flannery said, it's definitely a full-time job. I wouldn't support an increase for councillors until we ticked over into that next time frame.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. So
a few other details. It notes here that our annual turnover is 60 million, but my memory of the balance sheet is there's something like $600 million in assets, and I think that's a pertinent point. And if you were to compare it to what other CEOs are getting paid that might be managing or part of the chairman/CEO role, they'd be way above the current level of remuneration of our existing mayor. I also note that during the period of the 3 former shires, we were paying councillors about $9,000 or $10,000 and mayors, I think, $28,000. So in totality, there was about $70,000 being spent on mayors then. During the administration period, the general manager was up to over 200 and the administrator was getting about 200. So I'm not too sure why it suddenly dropped back to where it is, and I think that needs to be noted in the report too.
Okay, so we've got a recommendation there with a new .3 in it that clearly indicates that council would like the report to be have a bit more substance to it. I don't really want to comment on the report at all. So, if council's happy with the third point that's there, would someone like to move?
Happy to do so, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Councillor Tuckerman.
I'll second that.
Seconded, Councillor Horton. Thank you. If there's no more discussion about the matter, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Mr Mayor, can I just be
Councillor
a
Rolls.
bit pedantic here, but I don't know if anybody noticed that there's a Young Cheery Festival rather than a Young Cherry Festival.
It's a cherry festival.
So, you know, it's a cherry festival, I know, but, you know.
Thank you. I think they do that just to test us every now and again. Back to the General Manager.
Through the Chair, item 247, Mayoral Regalia. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's resolution on whether or not the Council wishes to continue with official regalia, primarily being a mayoral chain and or mayoral robes. The mayoral chain is usually worn at council meetings, well, not here it's not, but usually worn at official functions where the mayor is present and representing the council, such as citizenship ceremonies and possibly official visits from, say, sister city delegations or something like that. So there's 2 options provided in the recommendations, one of which is design a new set of mayoral chains, and this other one is to no longer have mayoral regalia.
Okay, councillors, the report's there in front of you and there's a recommendation. Have anyone want to speak to it or comment?
Mr Mayor, if I may, I note with great interest the TV advertisement produced by Wagga City Council, and I commend them on it, regarding a lack of tolerance for, or no tolerance for domestic violence in the Wagga City LGA. In that advertisement, I note that the Honourable Mayor of Wagga City is adorned in his mayoral regalia, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. I don't really know whether you need to wear a 3-cornered hat or not, and look a little bit like Benjamin Franklin, but certainly the mayoral chain is something that I think deserves to be supported, and it fits certainly with the demeanour of local government to have some formal link with our past. So I'd be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Any other comments or discussion in regard? Councillor O'Connor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, can you have the chains without the robe?
Yes, I believe that's what the recommendation says. Yeah, recommending that a chain, but no longer worry about the robes. There are a set of robes that are there, but yeah.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak against the motion. It's pretty archaic in my view. It's 2017. If it's good enough for the Prime Minister of Australia and the President of the United States not to wear this regalia, this outdated regalia, then I think it's good enough for the local government mayors of Australia not to use it. So it's well past its use-by date in my view.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. We got anyone else to speak for the motion?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak for the motion, simply for the fact that it's not an enormous outlay of money for council. I don't think the Mayor should be under duress to wear it. I think it could serve a a purpose if he doesn't or she doesn't wear it to go at the entrance to the council chambers in a glass cabinet, with history as to what it means and what it has stood for in the past as a learning tool for the youth of the area.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. So with two speakers for it, anyone else like to speak against the motion? If not,
Can I just clarify what the motion is?
it is recommended that Council Commission...
That's a recommendation. I'm not sure what the motion is.
We'll make the recommendation the motion.
But they cancel each other out.
Someone's got to move. Someone's got to move.
Mr Mayor, in the lack of a clear definition of a motion, I'll move that Hilltops Council provide a mayoral chain, and that the mayoral chain be housed in a display case located in Council's Harden offices.
Can I just ask a question, please, Mr Mayor, if I can?
Councillor Tuckerman, Councillor's attention, please.
The intention of that motion that you've put forward, Councillor Armstrong, which council chambers are you going to put the council regalia in?
The Southern Office, Harden.
Okay, councillors, this is something that probably shouldn't take as much discussion as just taking, but we've got a motion there, Councillor Armstrong.
I'll move that way.
And the motion is?
That Council...
I haven't got it in front of me, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Well, we can probably move it.
I don't think it should be one shot.
You don't want to be on show. That Council...
Through the chair, if we just you've got item 1 there. If we just say commission a design for a new set of mayoral chains, purchase and store at the or display at the Southern Office.
To be stored with the Mayor.
To be stored with the Mayor.
Yeah.
Can we have some common sense come back to the chambers, please? Dear, oh dear. No. Councillor Armstrong, you happy with that motion?
I think it's eminently suitable.
Thank you for your contribution, Councillor. Have I got a seconder for that motion? Seconded, Councillor Stadmiller. Would we like discussion or questions or comments in regard to that motion before I put it? In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Again. We'll start again. All those in favour of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The motion reads that Council commission a design for a new set of mayoral chains to be located with the Mayor. Located for the Mayor, I suppose. Then I'd change the wording, but I'll have to vote for the motion. That being the case, motion carried.
I'd like my name recorded against it, thank you.
You may well and truly have your name recorded against it. Just on that note, I'll make comment in regard to the reasoning behind my vote for a set of mayoral chains is that, as was alluded to by Councillor Stadmiller, I think it's good when the children are about that they recognise and there's something to it other than a male there in a suit and attire or a well-attired female as the Mayor. I think it just carries a bit more with the the youth of our community, that it's a sign that there's some to be respected there, I'd use them words, and also on the occasions when you do the citizenships, I think it's pretty special. It's very special for this particular mayor, and I think that the change could be worn on those occasions. Back to the General Manager.
Through the Chair, item 248, domestic violence policy for council staff. The purpose of the report is to recommend to council that they note the new policy on domestic violence for council staff and affirm their support for the programs and services which assist the victims of domestic violence who work for the Hilltops Council. Local Government New South Wales and the Australian Local Government Women's Association are encouraging councils to adopt a policy on domestic violence. And I note the policy is an internal staff policy. It's not necessarily necessary to be adopted by the council, but in this instance we are seeking council's endorsement of it.
Move the motion.
Move for discussion.
Move Councillor Tuckerman, seconded Councillor Flannery. Any questions, debate?
I note the Acting General Manager's comments then, but however, when I read the policy, it says this policy commences from the last date of adoption by Council. Now, if this is a recommendation for Council, then why is Council adopting it? This is clearly a document that relates to the management of Council staff by the General Manager, and if Council adopts this, then Council will be acting contrary to the provisions of the Local Government Act, in that Council will be actually issuing directions to its staff other than directions to its General Manager. I don't want to speak against the intent of the policy, because I think that it is entirely worthwhile and appropriate. However, I believe that once again this is redundant. It doesn't need to come to Council.
Through the Chair, I was trying to make the point as printed in the consultation part of the report. The policy is an internal staff policy. The recommendation, if adopted by Council, doesn't mean that Council is adopting the policy, and I'll take on notice the item that needs to be amended within the policy to take that part of it out.
Through the Mayor.
Because the motion does say just acknowledge the impact and affirm their support.
Yeah.
I'll refer you to page 2 of the policy. This policy shall be reviewed, blah, blah, blah. This policy commences from the last date of adoption by Council.
Through the Chair, so I can take that item on notice, as I said, and take it out of the policy. I expect that that's in there because the policy template has been used, and that section just needed to be deleted.
I think that it's entirely appropriate for the General Manager to have such a policy. I note that after reading the award yesterday, that there are provisions within the award that cover a large portion of this policy. So in that respect, it's going over old ground. The only other issue, this policy creates a duty of care for managers. It states that the report states that there's no financial impact, but clearly there's going to have to be training for those managers so as they're able to recognise domestic violence in the workplace, and that is not clarified in the financial impacts of the report. Altogether, I think it's entirely redundant.
I disagree. I think it's highlighting a very serious social concern, and I absolutely disagree with you. I don't think it's related to the workplace only. Your inference is that it's relating only to the workplace. No,
Councillor, you've taken me the wrong way there. My inference is that this is a day-to-day management issue. This is not a council policy. This is a policy and a practice that the General Manager would put into place that should not come to council. If council wants to issue some positive generic statement regarding domestic violence, I would be only too happy to be involved in that.
Okay, thank you, councillors, and I think it's a technical point that's been spoke on, not the issue. So, having said that, we have had the motion moved and seconded, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, next item 249, draft policy on licensing and leasing of council land and buildings. The purpose of the report is to present a draft policy to council for adoption, for recommendation that it go onto public display for a period not less than 60 days. The draft policy defines council's leasing and licensing functions, guiding principles and legislative and regulatory compliance obligations. It will provide a sound basis for the council members to ensure that all leasing and licensing activities are conducted efficiently, effectively, transparently and ethically in compliance with probity and audit requirements. The policy provides a matrix for enabling an assessment of rental subsidies, and that was an issue that we raised at the last council meeting. So the recommendations are before you.
Thank you very much, General Manager. Well said. So you have the report and the recommendations in front of us. Any comments or questions regarding it, councillors? Would someone like to put the motion?
Move the recommendation, Mr Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Seconded Councillor Horton. There's no questions or debate. I'll put it. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, item 250, Canberra Region Joint Organisation. Council has already affirmed its commitment to the CBRJO as per the resolution moved and carried in November 2017. However, we've been advised that by the Minister for Local Government that we need to have a more formal form of recommendation, if you like, and that's provided there.
Okay, councillors, that the report and the recommendations there in front of us again. As I said, we endorsed this at the last meeting. This is just fine-tuning it at the moment, so if there's any questions or comments about it.
Move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Tuckerman, seconded Councillor Walker. No discussion or questions. I'll put it. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, item 241, appointment of panel of conduct reviewers. The purpose of the report is to appoint the panel of conduct reviewers. The Model Code of Conduct requires the appointment of such a panel, and as the need arises, a sole conduct reviewer or a conduct review committee will be engaged from that panel. Centroc have carried out an expression of interest process to recommend appointees to that panel, and they have provided that list of appointees provided in the recommendation.
Okay, councillors, you have the report and the recommendation in front of you. Any questions or comment?
Through the Mayor to the General Manager, who decided on the people to be on this committee? How did they arrive at these names?
Through the Chair, I understand the process carried out by Centroc was that they advertised an expression of interest for the panel members to join. The Centroc process requires provides an assessment of the suitability of the members.
No further questions? Have someone put the recommendation? Moved Councillor O'Connor, seconded by Councillor Manchester. There's no more discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, item 252, financial support for NAIDOC Week 2018 School Initiative competition. The purpose of the report is to seek Council's endorsement for the financial contribution of $450 towards Curie Kids. That's the group that Council has previously supported in the past as for NAIDOC Week.
So moved.
Moved Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Horton. If there's no discussion, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Through the Chair, item 253, development applications statistics for November 2017. The purpose of the report to provide information on the status of development applications determined and outstanding as at 30th of November 2017, and the list is provided for you.
Thank you for that.
Move the motion.
Moved Councillor Horton. Seconder. Seconded Councillor Flannery.
Just a question, Mr.
Questions
Mayor.
or discussion? Councillor Stadmiller.
Regarding the development application for the former St Lawrence home at Gaylong, can we discuss that now? Sorry?
That's the next one.
Next.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. You're on.
Can we discuss at this stage in the meeting where that's up to, or would that be something suitable for closed?
I'll defer to the General Manager. Acting General Manager.
Through the Mayor, we have received submissions on that application. That application will come before Council, but it won't come before February. Obviously, there was insufficient time for Council staff to consider those submissions and undertake a full assessment report on the matter.
Thank you for that. Okay. If there's no more questions or discussion in relation to that, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again? Carried.
Item 254, submissions made by Hilltops Council Sustainable Growth. At the previous council meeting, in November, we discussed a range of submissions that have been 254. Sorry, 252 was NAIDOC wheat, 253 development applications, 254 submissions made by Hilltops Council Sustainable Growth. There's been a number of instances where calls for submissions have been responded to by staff of the Sustainable Growth team, and whilst the substance of the submissions have been reported to Council, the actual submissions have not been provided. Submissions now provided are changes to the requirements of the community impact statements, modifications to the Yass Valley Wind Farm project, review of Environmental Planning and Assessment Act regulations, and changes to the regulations governing the collection and storage of scrap metal. And the attachments provide details of the submissions made.
Okay, councillors, there's the report and the recommendation. I haven't got my iPads frozen.
Receive a note.
It's just to receive a note. We have to do that. Councillor Manchester, Councillor Tuckerman, all those in favour? Again, so be it.
Through the Chair, item 255, 1617 Southern Slopes Noxious Plants Authority Annual Report. Council is required to submit an annual report 5 months after the end of the financial year. Prior to submitting the report for the former Southern Slopes Noxious Plants Authority, it's submitted to Council. It was unclear due to the dissolution of the Southern Slopes whether an annual report was required for the 16-17 period, but advice from the Office of Local Government indicated that an annual report was required in a simplified version, and that annual report is provided in the attachments.
Thank you for that. So the report's there and the recommendation is there. Any move or a second or any comments? Moved, Councillor Tuckerman.
Second the motion.
Seconded, Councillor Horton. If there's no questions or discussion, I'll move the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again? So be it.
Item 256, Integrated Water Cycle Management. Update and safe and secure water program funding application for securing BOOROWA'S water supply. To give you the background on that, Council is currently undertaking the Integrated Water Cycle Management Strategy. This covers all urban water functions exercised by Council, including water supply, sewerage and stormwater, and it includes a 30-year financial plan and total asset management plan, as well as impact analysis on the typical residential bill for the adopted scenario. Council will be considering the Integrated Water Cycle Management Issues paper early in the new year, but at the moment we need to accelerate the process of applying for grant applications for the long-term water supply security for the Boorowa community. The report indicates to you that the two options for the Boorowa water security have been assessed, the off-stream storage and the connection to a neighbouring water supply, and they have been evaluated against each other on the basis of the triple bottom line basis of social, environmental and economic considerations. The issues paper, the draft issues paper that we have is not ready to give to Council, but the report quite clearly identifies that the construction of a new transfer main to connect Goldenfields Water County Council to Boorowa would provide the best value for money on a triple bottom line basis. The current funding source for such works is quite likely to be the Safe and Secure Water Program, made available recently by the New South Wales State Government. There is some urgency for Council to get some grant applications toward that program before the funding is allocated elsewhere. And what the recommendation is suggesting is that if Council could support the application toward that program of a detailed business case development for the water pipeline, given that we can tell you that at this stage that seems to be the option that's going to provide the water security for Boorowa.
Yeah, I'll move that motion.
Moved Councillor Horton,
Second the motion.
seconded Councillor Tuckerman.
Mr Mayor, question for the Acting General Manager. It notes just in the report that the water supply from Goldenfields would come through Gaylong, yet my advice, the sort of inquiries I've made is that the main from Harden through to Gaylong wouldn't be suitable to supply the quantity of water required to get through to Boorowa. So we're actually talking about a replacement of a main starting at Harden, is that correct?
That's at this stage that is correct, and what the discussions that we've been having with Goldenfields indicate that if nothing happened in regards to the Boorowa water supply pipeline, then that main would have to be renewed at any rate. So that the cost of that may have to be borne by Goldenfields, and they're agreeable to that at any rate.
Thank you.
But will we be applying, that may be the case, but that's a business case on its own, and the need to get water through to Boorowa is firstly bringing it forward and secondly requiring a bigger line than otherwise may be necessary to get the volume through. So I would assume we'd be making the grant application on the basis of starting at Harden, not starting at Gaylong.
Yep.
Through the Chair, yes.
Thanks for that, Councillor Flannery. So we've got a mover and a seconder. If there's any other discussion or questions? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again? So be it.
Just one clarification.
Councillor Flannery.
There's a demand from Sabelco for gas. Is that to be part of any submission?
To give you an update on that, the project is, we're still working to get the twin pipeline idea happening, but Sabelco are making a business case within their own internal processes to transfer from coal-fired kiln to gas-fired, and they haven't come back to us with their preference at this stage.
Thank you for that update.
Item 257, the Hilltops Works Report. The purpose of the report to provide information on works completed in the previous months and works planned for the next month. The format was modelled on the previous reports provided to the Harden Council and the Young Council, but it also includes works planned into the month going forward to give you some idea that we are actually planning to do some works. So I'll put that to you.
Thank you for that. The report's there and the recommendation is there, that is receive and note the information.
Move with a question.
Move Councillor Walker. Seconder.
Happy to second it, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tuckerman. Question, Councillor Walker.
Just how are we going with the fruit fly baiting and the fruit fly program? It's marked in Parks and Gardens on works completed.
The fruit fly program that was carried out through you, Mr Mayor, the fruit fly program that was a baiting program, splash baiting and baiting programs that were carried out last year are being carried out in a similar fashion this year, as is the sterile insect release. It's SIT, but I can't remember what the last word was. Anyway.
Yeah. So we haven't got an update on when they may be released, or where they're coming from, or the quantities, or whether the fruit flies actually in the area at the moment.
I can tell you that the sterile insects are released. I can't give you an update on the numbers, but we usually would refer that to the fruit fly, what used to be the fruit fly committee, and that would be the mechanism going forward, I would think. It's called, the new committee's, has a new name, but it has the same purpose.
Thank you.
Just a question, Mr. Bear, for the Acting General Manager. Can we have some sort of report on the issues with flying foxes within young? I've had a couple of people in the community discuss this with me, that it is becoming an issue.
Through the Chair, the flying foxes are an issue in the area around Lachlan Street. Council's undertaken started the process of preparing a management plan in accordance with the environmental regulations, and we have had the period of community consultation, and we need to complete that plan and bring it back to council so that we can let everybody know what's going on.
At the local government conference, pardon me, I think it was, first name was Lindsay, his last name evades me at the moment, but he's the former mayor of Eurobadalla, and they... Lindsay Brown, sorry. He spoke about some practices they put in place that worked efficiently, I think, if we wanted to consult with that council.
Councillor Stadmiller would also note that there was a councillor from a shire further up the coast of New South Wales who spoke favourably about the flying foxes, and even talked about what a great tourist attraction they were, to the surprise of the bulk of the conference. But it was said, so there's always two sides to any story. I digress. Okay. So, with those comments being made and moved and seconded, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again? So be it. So we're up to correspondence for attention.
Through the Chair, the correspondence for attention there, none for action, and media releases for information.
Recommendation is there to be recommended?
Move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Tuckerman, seconded Councillor O'Connor. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, just a question regarding council's closing hours. Did that make our most recent council newsletter?
Through the Chair, I'm advised it did. The next item with the Council Committee reports, Local Traffic Advisory Committee with a number of recommendations for adoption by Council.
Move the recommendation.
Seconded. Move Councillor Tuckerman, seconded Councillor Horton. All those in favour? Again? So be it.
Hilltops Floodplain Management Committee with a number of recommendations to be adopted by Council, including commencing negotiations with landowners and Office of Environmental Heritage to progress the Young Trunk Drainage Upgrade Scheme, and to advertise the draft Boorowa Floodplain Risk Management Study and Plan for public comment, again closing in the middle of February, recognising the Christmas period.
Move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Tuckerman, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favour? Again? Carried. Thank you. I'll just touch on that committee meeting that I was the sole attendee of, but it was rewarding for me, given that I've had some comments to make in the past about the floodplain in the CBD of Young, and I initially, back in another life, sat at the first meeting when this floodplain management committee was put together back in the Young Council, and it's really pleasing to see the work that's been done and the efforts been made to get where we are today, and to have the people who dealt with this matter sit there and explain to me that there's a great chance of external funding, because the flooding of the CBD and the issues in Young, in the town of Young, are significant. When you come down to the benefit-cost ratio parts of these things that tell the next level of government whether we should get funding or not, I was told that if you could get to a 0.7 or a 0.8, it carried a lot of weight. That meant there were significant concerns and financial implications of the flooding. the fact that the benefit cost ratio for what they've put up, the proposal they put up with the retention basins and the first part of the management is 1.22, tells me that I'm not the only person that was concerned about the considerable damage and costings that was happening to the young CVD by this issue. So I found that meeting particularly helpful to myself. And going forward, we hope the same issues that were addressed at being done at Boorowa are continuing on. There's some issues there, albeit more general flooding issues than storm issues. The people who did these studies have undertaken a lot of work there, and it's still ongoing, and they're going to talk to the relevant people that are involved in that. So it was a very successful meeting. And that's enough from me. Next.
Through the Chair, the balance of the committee reports, Risk Management Committee, Lachlan Regional Transport Committee, Centroc Board recommended that the balance of the committee reports be noted.
Do I move it? Councillor Manchester, seconder. Councillor Horton, all those in favour? Thank you. I might just jump back now. I jumped over earlier and we spoke on, Councillor Tuckerman asked me about the mayoral report, to the fact that I should have done it when we were doing it then, and go around the table with the councillors who, well, not all the committees are up and running yet, some are, some aren't, but it's just an opportunity to give councillors a chance to, if they'd like to make a report on the committee meetings they've been to, or activities or anything they think is relevant to the council meeting. By that I don't mean it's a open 20-minute session for each councillor, because being 11 of us, we could be here all night. But I'd like to start that off tonight and give councillors the opportunity to be included and report on any committees or anything they think is relevant. So we'll start with Councillor Rolls. Would you like?
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. As far as the committees are concerned, I've been involved with the Cultural Committee and that Section 355, and I have learnt a lot. And once again, I think it was just an initial starting committee, so things will progress from there. As far as other activities, I'd just like to say how much I have enjoyed, perhaps it's because my first year, attending all the school end of year activities, and also to say how much the schools appreciate councillors being there and attending. And I think that is one way which we can pull together the Hilltops. I come here with no allegiance to a certain area. I'm involved in all areas of Hilltops, and I think this is one way that we really show the connection to the community. And it wasn't just me, I think it was everybody who was involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rolls. Councillor Armstrong.
Meetings as minted, Mr Mayor. In addition to that, quite a number of about 9 end-of-year functions for schools on behalf of both Hilltops Council and Goldenfields Water County Council. And I just want to confirm Councillor Rolls' comments in regards to...
Call me Councillor Margaret if you like.
Councillor Margaret's comments in regards to the enjoyment that I see on the faces of the kids at those small schools. They are really commendable, and they warm the cockles of your heart. In my role as a Goldenfields Water County Councillor, I just want to advise Councillor that both Councillor Statman and myself have attended our first meeting, another one later this week. I wanted to make Council aware that the General Manager of Goldenfields Water County Council has tendered his resignation, and will be finishing on the 12th of January. A fairly common date for finishing up in local government, I believe. I'd just like to say that from the little bit that we've had to do with the General Manager, we've found him to be a highly competent and the most effective General Manager, and I think that on behalf of Hilltops Council, and certainly the former chairperson, Councillor Manchester, I'd like to recommend that Council write to Phil Rudd and congratulate him on his work at Goldenfield Water County Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Stadmiller.
As with many of us, I've attended some school events. I hadn't actually stopped before in the township of Kurawatha before, and went to that school and had a great time, a great little small school. Thanks to Councillor Armstrong as well for filling in at Bendick-Morrell. I think it might have been last Wednesday when I was attending the HARDEN Sports Advisory meeting. That was very helpful of him. Similar thoughts in regarding Goldenfields with the loss of the General Manager, Mr Rudd. Seemed very competent and very helpful, very understanding, very knowledgeable, so he will be a big loss for that organisation going into the future. Attending the local government conference in Sydney, it was an improved conference on 2012 that I attended in Town Hall, which turned into a schmozzle where there wasn't a quorum the second day, which resulted in a lot of councillors who'd driven further than us from Western New South Wales having to go home. We got through 87 motions on day one, and a couple of sensible outcomes which I can highlight would be the fact that we aren't making it local government New South Wales policy to remove the ability for homeowners to have wood fires in their homes, which was put up by a council in the eastern part of Sydney. I think a lot of people in the country and the country councillors sitting around were gobsmacked that a wood fire would be outlawed, basically. Just a highlight or a low light of the conference, that one.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Councillor Horton.
I attended the Lachlan Regional Transport Committee, the rail one, which was held in Wollongong. Attended the Lachlan Regional Transport Committee, the rail one, which was held in Wollongong, and we talked, well, all about rail. There's nothing else got much for mention, but from our perspective, this part of the world, we were pushing, in my case, the Meldon to Dumbarton line, which will be ideal now that we've got the new grain terminal in Harden. Instead of the grain having to go further into Sydney and down the southern line, it'll be round about Picton and go across. In the days of the Premier of the what was his name, the Liberal guy, Nick Greiner. Yeah, thank you, Nick Greiner. They spent about $70 or $80 million doing that line from Meldon to Dumbarton, which is down near to Port Kembla, and then for whatever reason they pulled the pin. So most of the infrastructure's there. There's some more to be completed, but it'd be most advantageous to all the people with grain that go into the Cunningar terminal. It'd expedite the transportation of those grains. We pushed that, or I pushed that, and along with the Blaney to the Mondrel line, we want to get more work into that to get that going again. Talked about the Harden railway station. That is now the gateway to the Hilltops. It's the only operational railway station which is on the main line from Sydney to Melbourne. People want to come to the tourism, want to come to the Hilltops. They want to see. They'll come by rail as well as car and by plane and bus. So that needs to be cleaned up, and we need to have a full-time guard there, or a guard there when the trains come into the station. I think there's four. I think there are two each way from Sydney to Melbourne, so a total of four that go through every day from my memory. Attended the Kite Festival meeting, I'm on that committee, and it was a very productive meeting. One of the council representatives was there, took all the notes, and that'll be in the next report on the business paper. The Lachlan Valley one, by the way, has already been submitted onto this iPad. JAG, I went to the Dugong Advancement Group committee meeting, missed the first couple because they coincided with the council meetings in where are we, in Young or Harden or wherever the meetings were being held, the business meetings and monthly meetings, and so the preference had to go to the council meeting. So they've changed their meeting dates out there to Thursday, and the last one was last week. The Councillor O'Connor was there, as was Lee Furness. So it's a very, very active committee out there, and they get things done, and they don't muck around. It's good to be involved with that. Also went to the presentation to the school kids out there. It's a wonderful little school. I couldn't believe how dedicated the headmistress was there with these children. McFadden, I think her name was. credit to her and to the whole area. Fantastic. They also presented prizes at the Murrumburra Harden High School, public high school, and that's a good bunch of kids there. A lot of them do it pretty tough, I'd say, but they're good kids, and they all have a go. And I think that's, apart from other dozens of these other community meetings, that's not me.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Councillor Flannery.
Oh, sorry.
Matt? And me?
The only meeting that I've attended since the last council meeting was the sports meeting with the Mayor, which was a very good outcome other than other general community involvement through the HRDC. So, but I have been to a number of prize giving. In fact, I think it's the first time in 13 years that I've missed one. But and thank you to Councillor Rolls for filling in when I initially said I would do the public school. But they are great events, and certainly when councillors don't make it, they really notice our absence. So it's very worthwhile getting to.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, meetings is minuted. Anyone, I think I need to report on, and I wonder if we get the reports to council, is the Cherry Festival Committee. Been rather busy and involved with that, and it's unfortunate that the weather was against the day itself, but the spirit of Young and the people of Young was absolutely outstanding, and as well the visitors that attended Young on the day, they made the most of a challenging day, and most events went very well. So, and I dare say the minutes of those meetings will come to council in time.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Manchester.
I attended the traffic committee meeting. And actually two of them, one on the Tuesday and one on a Wednesday, the following day anyhow. And I was talking with Dirk and Ian Rice about the possibility of changing the structure of it. Having the two meetings, which is duplication, I think we just need to work on how we're going to run that one forward. It's a very important committee, but it's pointless in having one day and then duplicating it the next with the RMS and the police and what have you. So I think we should look at what we're going to do there. And also I'd like to just endorse what the comments that Councillor Armstrong and Stadmill said about the General Manager and the fact that we should certainly send him a letter of congratulations for the work that he has done there, because he has actually turned some of the direction of Golden Fields around to a very positive way.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I went to a variety of community strategic plan meetings and regional art shows. Very interesting school presentation nights. I was with Councillor Stadmiller at Kurawatha, which I hadn't had any awareness of, and I'm sure that every one of those 30 children must have felt completely loved. It was absolutely beautiful. It was very long. Those children sat in perfect silence for nearly 2 hours. And it was very hot. It was about 37 degrees. But it was wonderful. And the other presentation nights I went to were also as good. The committee meeting that I've had is the Environmental Initiatives Committee, and we decided to look at, or to focus on, alternate energy sources and really try and investigate complementing wind with solar. I missed the Boorowa Community Garden meeting, but I'm assuming Councillor Tuckerman got to it. I went to the commissioning of the Grain Corp facility with the Mayor and Councillor Horton yesterday. And that was yesterday, sorry, so many things happened. And that was excellent. That was a really amazing facility that's going to benefit the entire region. And I've been to 2 Progress Association meetings, Wombat and Jugiong, and they both were very full, and there's lots of work to be done in both places. It was excellent.
Very good, thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Tuckerman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Obviously there was a number of council workshops that we attended, whether it was the migration study or updates on the education precinct and library. It was great to attend the regional art show for the Cherry Festival here. There's a lot of talented people within our region. Also attended the community garden meeting for Boorowa. Obviously the actual committee hasn't been endorsed yet by council, but it was a good exercise to to get together. There seems to be a growing interest in that community garden. There are certainly a number of questions that I'd like to forward on to the Director of Infrastructure to clarify some issues which was raised during the meeting. We had a very pleasant night at the Central School presentation. I was happy to represent Hilltops Council there and the Mayor. And we also had the annual Boorowa Carols by candlelight in the park, which was a wonderful evening and certainly attended by a lot of children and, of course, Santa Claus. I attended the Australia Day Committee, so plans are underway for the event in Boorowa. Certainly a few questions around, Mr Mayor, what your program will be for the day, and surely we'll be hearing about that before the event in January. So other than that, that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. And I'll address your last point first. When I work it out, I'll let you know. I have received correspondence from Boorowa, and I will get back to replying to that correspondence in regard. But I do plan to be in all three places, not at the same time. I'm just not quite that good, but I do intend to get round to all three places. As my diary stated, there's been a lot on. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you very much to the people who went to the school presentations on my behalf and stood in for me while I was in either the Canberra Joint Regional Organisation meeting or at Local Government New South Wales. I was away, so thank you very much to the councillors who got involved and did that for me. And as the other councillors mentioned, the ones I went to, very enjoyable evenings. And Councillor Armstrong and I attended a couple at the Young North at 37 or 8 degrees, and yeah, it was pretty warm. But the kids, as Councillor O'Connor said, the kids sat there, didn't move. They were a credit to their teachers. They I think the councillors were more fidgety than the children, but they are good nights and good fun, and the kids really enjoy it. The other ones I've been to pretty much explained themselves. Yesterday at Cunningar, and I've been reprimanded by my wife. I spelled it wrong on a tweet I think I put up. No more tweets late at night. It was a great day, and what a facility. I hadn't been there since they started the upgrade. I left it to the end, and the Grain Corp gentleman who was in charge took us right to the top and explained everything to us, and we had a show of how the loading machine works on a little panel. Just technology is fantastic, and it was really good, and it'll be really rewarding for our whole region. And that's when I was asked to speak, I said I felt like it wasn't me to speak. I'd asked Councillor Horton to attend, because it was back in the former Harden Council, and Councillor Flannery was otherwise engaged yesterday and couldn't be there, but through his dealings with the council and Council of Manchester, and Tony's dealings with Grain Corp and with the grain growers, and it's just amazing what can happen when all the groups come together and all work towards one end. And everyone who's involved with that process of upgrading that infrastructure at Cunningar are to be commended at the highest level. It was a really great initiative and well done. While we were there, the Minister for Small Business then was there with us on the top of the 45-metre tower, and he had to interrupt the Grain Court gentleman, which I thought at the time was, this is not real good, but as it turned out it was the Prime Minister who was on the phone. So he took the phone call, and I'm pretty sure that was the moment when he learnt that, what we all know now, that he's had to transfer duties to the Department of Veterans Affairs. So it was quite funny when it actually happened. So that's about all, unless anyone's got any further questions about anything I attended.
Mr Mayor, can I also note and probably invite you to write to Angus Taylor and congratulate him on his ministerial position, which was also handed down for law enforcement and cyber security.
We'll do that. And we'll do the same for Michael McCormick. I have sent him a personal message, but we'll do that on an official level as well.
Mr Mayor, while you're writing to Mr Taylor, it might be also worthy to note his involvement in Cunningar. He had a fair bit to do, I think, and yeah, Councillor Flannery might know more about that, being heavily involved himself with Barry Alcorn of Harden.
He was mentioned yesterday and acknowledged his input yesterday as was Barry's, who was there, and I think, yeah, as I said, it was a tremendous effort by everyone involved, and they're all to be commended, yeah. All right, I had one other little note I was going to mention to you all while we're here, before we go any further, and it was to make a comment in regard to when I returned back from Sydney, I was met by a phone call from an investigator from the electoral office, which I thought was a joke at the time, but it was in relation to a complaint that had been made that had accused me of being a building developer. And not so much of being a building developer, but the fact that I hadn't declared on my electoral paperwork, when standing for council, that I was a building developer. I said to the investigator that that was exactly correct. I did not put that on my electoral paper because I happen to be a shearing contractor, not a building developer. He had a couple of case scenarios where I'd stood down from the chair in relation to a development with a non-pecuniary interest that I declared, and the fact that I'd bought and subdivided some land in 2005. So I just wanted councillors at this level to be aware that that had been made, that accusation. I'm pretty sure that the investigator's report came to an end when I finished my discussion with him. The only part that I explained to him that I don't get the right to reply, but the person or persons who made that accusation obviously were in chambers or watch our live streaming, so to them all I could say is that there's only one thing that surpasses their lack of credibility or integrity, and that's their lack of intelligence. So on that note, could I have someone please move that we move into closed? Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor O'Connor. Thank you.